McLaren just had their 2026 car banned by the FIA, and the reason? New evidence that changes everything. The floor they built wasn't illegal until the FIA saw the data. Then the rules changed. It was co-developed with Mercedes. It was months ahead of the grid. And now, it's officially outlawed. Subscribe right now, because the secret the FIA just uncovered doesn't just hit McLaren, it could reshape the entire 2026 Formula One season. Just 8 weeks before the first preseason shakedown, McLaren received a confidential technical notice from the FIA. It wasn't public. It wasn't discussed in the media. But inside that document was a sentence that changed their entire 2026 campaign. The current MCL 38 floor concept is no longer deemed compliant under updated structural interpretation of Article 3.7.2c. That one line didn't just invalidate a component, it shattered a full year of development. Every simulation, every tunnel session, every decision built around that floor was now worthless. This didn't come from a protest or a visible scandal. It came from fresh internal data submitted by McLaren themselves. As part of the 2026 final technical disclosures, teams were required to resubmit real-world and simulated structural response data under full power unit load. What changed everything was a new version of the vibration mapping file data that revealed a subtle correlation between combustion torque pulses and aerodynamic surface behavior under high-speed load. That correlation exposed the floor's true genius and sealed its fate. The floor didn't flex in the way the FIA had outlawed in previous eras. There were no visible deformations. Nothing moved. But the material itself, a layered composite built with torque-reactive memory structure, altered the underfloor air channel geometry in real time, responding to energy transmitted through the engine block. That meant passive aero behavior tuned by engine frequency, something never seen in the sport at this level. It was invisible, undetectable without telemetry, and brutally effective. According to engineers involved in the program, the advantage wasn't massive in raw downforce. It was in aero stability, particularly in corner entry and exit. The floor allowed airflow through the diffuser to remain laminar under variable load. That improved balance and delayed rear-end instability, letting the car run with a stiffer setup without sacrificing mechanical grip. On tracks like Suzuka, Silverstone, and Spa, this would have meant 3 to 4 tenths per lap, not because of extra power, but because the car was simply easier to drive at the limit. The new evidence, submitted as part of final FIA review requirements, was what changed the ruling. It wasn't that McLaren had built something new, they had simply proven it worked too well. The FIA had initially allowed the concept based on design drawings and early structural tests. But now, with complete frequency maps, thermal load profiles, and flow validation data, they realized the system was dynamic in everything but name. And under the new wording of passively modulated aerodynamic response, that was enough to issue the ban. McLaren's leadership were blindsided. Internally, they believed they had ticked every regulatory box. No moving parts. No actuator. No external control systems. But intent is now everything. The FIA saw the synergy between the engine and the aero and viewed it as a covert performance system, one that technically obeyed the rules but practically overpowered their meaning. It was a classic Formula One moment, innovation punished not because it was dishonest, but because it was disruptive. Now, the dominoes begin to fall. The entire chassis philosophy built around that floor must be restructured. Front suspension geometry, rear aero balance, side pod airflow all must be re-optimized. With the calendar closing fast, McLaren are facing a full aero rebuild under pressure. This isn't just a regulatory setback. It's a complete technical and psychological reset. And for a team that had found momentum, found identity, found dominance, this may be the most painful reset of all. What triggered the FIA's decision wasn't a sudden change in policy, it was the final integration data from McLaren's power unit aero interface tests. As teams moved into full systems integration ahead of homologation, McLaren's latest submission included a new layer of frequency-mapped torque data, cross-referenced with floor aero stability. That's where the alarm was raised. The FIA identified a precise match between engine load cycles and subtle aerodynamic behavior in the rear underfloor region. This wasn't flexing. It wasn't illegal movement. But it was something new, a form of aero reaction tied to engine pulse frequency. At the heart of the controversy lies a highly specialized composite material used in the central floor section. Developed with supplier support from the Mercedes HPP division, the material was layered to react structurally to vibration energy, particularly in the 40 to 70 Hz range, the same range generated during mid-corner throttle transitions. When vibration passed through the floor from the power unit's mounting points, it caused microscopic tension and release cycles in the laminate structure. This didn't create movement, it reshaped pressure zones around the diffuser. Enough to change airflow characteristics in real time. What's critical is that the system operated entirely passively. There was no actuator, no electronics, no software control. This wasn't an active aero system, at least not in the traditional sense. But it blurred the line. By tying material behavior to engine behavior, McLaren had built a feedback loop between the combustion cycle and the car's aerodynamic surface. The car wasn't just reacting to the road. It was reacting to itself dynamically, without any driver input. That idea was both brilliant and, according to the FIA's interpretation, unacceptable. Until this point, FIA rules focused on mechanical movement or adjustable surfaces as the boundary of legal aero response. What McLaren introduced didn't move at all. It reconfigured airflow by flexing at a molecular level the same way a speaker cone vibrates without ever changing its fixed shape. For months, the concept remained under the radar. It wasn't visible in renders. It passed load tests. And it wasn't even considered controversial until the performance data confirmed it was doing exactly what McLaren had hoped, creating corner-specific downforce gains without aerodynamic penalty. In track simulation models, the system delivered a net gain of 2 to 4 tenths per lap at power-sensitive circuits like Baku, Jeddah, and Montreal. But more importantly, it stabilized rear-end behavior under unpredictable tire conditions, especially during energy recovery transitions. This gave McLaren superior balance mid-corner, which allowed for more aggressive energy deployment and throttle mapping. That's why the car looked so composed in early sim races. It wasn't just fast, it was forgiving. That combination is what scared the FIA. Not because it was unlawful, but because it was working. The timing of the ban has led to speculation. Why now, when the FIA had seen early material documentation as far back as Q3 2025? Why wait until the design was finalized, tested, and fully integrated? According to internal sources, the FIA originally believed the behavior fell within tolerance. But once full system correlation showed consistent, measurable aero changes linked directly to engine load patterns, the decision was made to shut it down before rivals could replicate it. It was a move not to penalize McLaren, but to prevent escalation across the grid. The wider implication is that the definition of active versus passive aerodynamics has just been reshaped quietly, and without a formal vote. Now, teams will have to disclose not only how a part behaves, but how it interacts with the car's internal energy systems. That includes heat, vibration, and engine torque feedback. McLaren may be the first to suffer, but this decision now affects every constructor. And as the 2026 grid approaches the launch window, one thing is clear: aerodynamic legality is no longer about what moves, it's about what reacts. McLaren didn't just lose a floor. They lost control of their future. This wasn't a case of illegal parts or hidden systems, it was an idea. A breakthrough forged in the narrowest margins of legality, nurtured through data and detail, and ultimately erased by interpretation. And that's what makes it so brutal. When the rules move after the work is done, innovation isn't just punished, it's betrayed. What's been banned is more than carbon fiber and resin. It's a philosophy of how to think differently, how to outsmart the grid without cheating, and how to engineer advantage through brainpower, not politics. McLaren believed they were operating in the gray, the same space Brawn once exploited, the same area Red Bull danced in for years. But this time, the gray collapsed. The message from the FIA is loud: if it bends the system, even passively, it will be broken. For the engineers at Woking, the emotional toll cannot be overstated. They created something elegant, subtle, and effective, and they did it transparently. They didn't hide the floor's behavior. They showed their data, ran their tests, disclosed everything. And yet, the deeper their data proved the concept's success, the faster the walls closed in. What was once legal became illegal not because of deception, but because of performance. It's the kind of reversal that sends shockwaves through a team's culture. Trust in the process erodes. Creativity becomes caution. Engineers second-guess ideas not based on physics, but on politics. And in Formula One, where innovation is measured in milliseconds, fear is poison. When the system tells you that success can get you banned, risk becomes the enemy. And that is a loss far deeper than lap time. Every senior technical figure watching this understands the warning. If the FIA can redefine legality mid-cycle, then no innovation is ever truly safe. The rulebook is no longer a set of boundaries, it's a moving target, shaped by intent, impact, and optics. McLaren's floor may be the first casualty, but it won't be the last. Every team pushing the edge is now asking, how much is too much? And will we only find out once it's too late? Yet, even in this reset, there's a lesson. McLaren dared to build something the sport had never seen. They found a way to make engine vibration something usually feared into an aerodynamic advantage. That takes vision. That takes guts. And though the design is gone, the intelligence behind it isn't. They've proven they can lead technically. Now the question is whether they'll be allowed to lead competitively. So now, the race begins long before the lights go out. Not just on the track but in the design rooms, the regulation meetings, and the political backchannels of the paddock. Because McLaren just exposed how thin the line is between genius and illegality. And the rest of the grid? They've been put on notice. The FIA isn't just regulating what's built. They're regulating what's possible.